Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all my Twilightsworn Yugioh deck profile for November 2025. I can't remember the last time I actually focused on making a Twilightsworn deck, which focuses on the many different Twilightsworn monsters to be used with the Lightsworn engine of the deck. The big thing with the Twilightsworns is that they have to be banished for their card effects, so you still kind of have to utilize them with the Lightsworn engine, but they still take a main focus with some of the other spells and traps we run in the deck along with the Twilightsworn monsters. But then the mill power comes down to the Lightsworn engine being able to set them up in the graveyard and then make use of other banished cards we run in the deck to then summon out cards like our Punishment Dragon. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. We'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Twilightsworn monsters, we're running 2 copies of Punishment Dragon. With this card, it cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by possessing 4 or more banished Lightsworn monsters with different names. Once per turn, quick effect, you can pay 1,000 life points, shuffle into the deck all cards in the graveyards, and face up banished cards except for Lightsworn monsters. And once per turn, if your Lightsworn monster effect is activated, send the top 4 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So this is where a lot of the Twilightsworn effects come into play. They work off of the Lightsworn monster effects to then send additional cards on top of the actual Lightsworn monster effects as well. So they work with the Lightsworn effects in tandem to send more cards off to the graveyard. Punishment Dragon has to go for that banish effect, which we run other cards in the deck that can help with that banish option, which we'll go over in just a bit. But for the other Twilightsworn monsters, we're running 3 copies of Lumina, Twilightsworn Shaman. Once per turn, you can banish 1 Lightsworn monster from your hand or graveyard, then target one of your banished Lightsworn monsters except for Lumina, Twilightsworn Shaman, special summon it, and once per turn, if your other Lightsworn monster effect is activated, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So it helps additionally with your mill power of this card. So then just the additional send power, but she works kind of in a reverse option with Lumina being able to go for the banish card effect to summon out another one from the banished Lightsworn monsters, but still helps because then you're banishing another monster. So then it can help with the different named Lightsworn monsters to then be able to summon out Punishment Dragon. We're also running for some of the one-ofs for the Twilightsworn monsters. 1 Jane, Twilightsworn General, 1 Raiko, Twilightsworn Fighter, and then the 1 Lila, Twilightsworn Enchantress. With the Lila effect, once per turn, when a spell or trap or effect is activated, you can banish 1 Lightsworn monster from your hand or graveyard, target a face-up spell or trap on the field, and destroy it. And then once per turn, if your other Lightsworn monster effect is activated, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. Having the mill effect, with 3 being the same for Raiko and then 2 for Jane. Having the banish of a Lightsworn monster from your hand or graveyard to target a face-up monster on the field, and have it lower its attack and defense with Jane. And then I would say one of the best ones is Raiko. If this card's normal or flip face-up, you can banish 1 Lightsworn monster from your hand or graveyard to banish 1 card on the field. So then just being able to banish 1 card on the field as well with a non-target banish effect works very, very well for Raiko to help get rid of cards on the field. But once again, they all work off of that one-of-tech banish option, which we have other cards to be able to search out these cards in the deck. So we really need to just run the one-ofs for them, which if they get sent to the graveyard off of Lightsworn effects, we can either summon them back from the banish zone with cards like our Lumina, Twilightsworn, or even from the graveyard with cards like our Lumina, Lightsworn Summoner, which we're running 3 of as well. Being able to discard a card, summon a level 4 lower Lightsworn from your graveyard, which once again can grab any of the Twilightsworns that we mentioned as well, and then sending the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard, which once that effect activates, if you have your Twilightsworns on the field also, be able to send off of their effects also. And then 3 copies of Lightsworn Dragon Link. If you have a Lightsworn monster in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If it's special summoned, you can send 1 Lightsworn card from your deck to the graveyard, except for Lightsworn Dragon Link. And if it's sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Dragon monster with 3,000 attack and 2,600 defense from your deck to your hand. You can only use the effect of Lightsworn Dragon Link once per turn, but indirectly, Dragon Link can also search out Punishment Dragon since it meets the correct stats for being able to search out that specific dragon monster. So just another definite 3-of just with the ease of being able to summon out this monster. And then additional 3-ofs include the 3 Raiden being one of the tuners we run on the deck, and just easy mill power with the end turn to send the top 2, and then during the main phase being able to send the top 2. So you can just set up more and more Lightsworn monsters that we run in the graveyard thanks to this card. The same for the setup in the form of Weiss, Lightsworn Archfiend. You can place 1 other Lightsworn from your hand on top of the deck to special summon this card from your hand, then send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. If it's sent from the deck to the graveyard, you can target a Lightsworn monster in your graveyard except for Weiss and special summon it, being able to grab back any of the Twilightsworns that we mentioned as well, thanks to this card, and its use for its summon And then lastly, for the Lightsworn monsters, 2 copies of Fellis Lightsworn Archer with the special summon option if it's sent off of the card effect, and being able to tribute it to target a monster your opponent controls and destroy it, and then send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. All these just work very, very well together for the engine. The Twilightsworn engine may be a little smaller, but the reason for this is because you need that mill power that the original Lightsworns can provide. If you ran majority Twilightsworns, you wouldn't be able to run too much of an engine to utilize those other card effects. And then we're just running the 1 Judgment Dragon. We have the 1 additional spell in the deck that helps with this switch, which we'll go over in a bit, called Twilight Twin Dragons. So you really only need the 1 copy of Judgment Dragon. But what does help in the deck is more banish power, which we're running the 1 copy of Chaos Dragon Levianeer and the 1 Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning to have our different light and dark attributes to be able to banish off these cards to give us some more big house monsters on the field, and then be able to set up more of those banish monsters to use with Punishment Dragon. And then lastly, for the monsters, 1 Glow Up Bulb, just for another tuner special summon while being able to send the top card of our deck to the graveyard. We're going for the 60 card deck with this version. In total, I think we're running around 45 cards for the entire engine, just to have more mill power and not, worry too much about decking out. You want to go for your big plans as you can with your monsters on the field, so just having some of these smaller engines to be able to potentially draw into. For the spells, 2 copies of March of the Dark Brigade. You target a Lightsworn monster in your graveyard that has a level, add to your hand, then banish the number of cards from the top of your deck equal to the original level of that monster in your hand. You can activate 1 March of the Dark Brigade per turn, but just being able to add back a level 4 would be your ideal play, because then you'll banish the top 4, which could set up some different names for your Lightsworn monsters as well, or at least give you some banish engine to work with, let's say, one of the ones you added back to your graveyard, because then if you add Lumina and then banish 3, you may give yourself some targets in the banish zone to use with Lumina. Also, 2 copies of Twilight Twin Dragons. If you control Punishment Dragon, target 1 Judgment Dragon in your graveyard, add to your hand. Then you can send the top 4 cards of your deck to the graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a Lightsworn monster effect from the deck, you can target 1 Punishment Dragon in your graveyard and add to your hand, then banish the top 4 cards of your deck. So either way, it helps to set up the search of another engine. If you need to have Punishment Dragon on the field, you can just add the 1 of Judgment Dragon in your graveyard and then send the top 4 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So it works with more and more mill power thanks to this card being able to add back those cards, and then vice versa, being able to take the Punishment Dragon if this card is milled itself to the graveyard. I was debating how many of this card I wanted to run along with March of the Dark Brigade, but I still find the original Lightsworn engine just to be a little stronger, so we're still running the 3 copies of Charge of the Light Brigade and the 3 copies of Solar Recharge. It's just mill power, draw power, and search power all together while being able to set up your graveyard and give you draw or needed cards. So I would say you just want to run this engine as a little smaller engine compared to the main Lightsworn engine. And then just the one thing I figured for a little more power off of the banish option is Allure of Darkness. Just being able to get into your engine for the draw if you have the banish of a dark monster, all the better. And then from there, being able to just set up more banish while giving you just as much of a draw engine as Solar Recharge did in the deck. With the last of our spells being 1 copy of Lightsworn Sanctuary and 1 Foolish Burial, have the add back power of Sanctuary, and then just the specific send of a card off of Foolish Burial. A lot of times with this card, just to go for the adjustment of our monsters, I would send cards like off of Foolish Burial, Glow Up Bulb, to then give us some monsters to summon back, and then 1 additional mill. For the traps, we are running the 2 copies of Twilight Cloth. You target 1 face-up monster you control, banish any number of Lightsworn monsters from your graveyard, and if you do, that monster gains 200 attack and defense for each, banished by this effect. But the main play is if it's sent to the graveyard by a Lightsworn monster effect, you can activate this effect. This turn, Lightsworn monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Extra protection for your Lightsworn monsters just by going off of the mill effect of your card additionally. So when this card gets milled, you have that additional option for protection for your Lightsworn cards. And then the 1 copy of Twilight Eraser, and then the 1 copy of Lightsworn Aegis. For the send, for this card, being able to set Aegis and then being able to negate their effects based on the number of Lightsworn monsters you control. And Twilight Eraser, if you control 2 or more Lightsworn monsters with the same type but different names, banish 2 Lightsworn monsters from your graveyard, then target 2 cards on the field and banish them, giving you more banish options in the form of just having consistency for your Lightsworn monsters on the field also. that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. For our synchro monsters, 2 copies of Michael Arc Lightsworn. So being able to, once per turn, pay 1,000, target a card on the field, and banish that target, which, if need be, you could banish your own cards just to set up the banish for Punishment Dragon, or you could go for your opponents, and when it's destroyed, you can target any number of other Lightsworn monsters in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and then gain 300 life points for each one return. So this can also help you from preventing 2 deck out if you have plenty of cards in your graveyard to shuffle back. The 1 Minerva Athenian Lightsworn, the 1 Judgment Dragon of Heaven, and then the 1 Psyframe Lord Omega for the rest of the level 8 synchro monsters, which could work well with Raiden and then the other level 4 monsters to be able to go in for the synchro summon of these more or less generic level 8 monsters. And for the Xyz monsters, I have 1 Perform Mage Trapeze Magician, the 1 Zombie Vampire, and the 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus, which this would be Minerva. I just don't know where I put my copy of the Minerva Xyz monster to run in the extract, so you'll replace it with this final spot here, just for another rank 4 mill monster to be able to use in the deck. The 1 copy of the Enlightenment Dragon must be special summoned from your extract by banishing the above monsters, 1 each from your field or graveyard. So, depending on how you can summon this monster, just another boss monster to summon out using both our Judgment and Punishment Dragon. And then for the Link monsters, 1 Lena the Light Charmer Lustrous, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, 1 Haggard Lizardos, which with the testing I realized this is a big help in the deck also, just for an easy Link 2 to banish and then combat against our opponent's monsters. The 1 IP Masquerena, along with the 1 Unicorn and the 1 Access Code Talker to finish off the extra deck and all the Link monsters. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, once again, you just need that setup for your Lightsworn cards in the graveyard. So depending on what you draw into, whether you go for the Solar Recharge or the Charge of the Light Brigade play, and then your 1 additional Lightsworn monster, depending on the card you have. If you open up with the 1 of the 3 Lumina Twilightsworns we're running, all the better for that summon. You can use Solar Recharge to set this card up in your graveyard, and then go for your draw. The draw can be essential if you open up cards like March of the Dark Brigade, because then with this card, you can activate it targeting the Lumina that you just sent off to the graveyard, which, don't forget, you'll get a mill too, which could potentially set up other Lightsworn cards in your graveyard for you also. But if you still have the Lumina in the graveyard, you can use your March of the Dark Brigade targeting this card, and then giving you the Banish for your additional cards as well, which if you hit a Lightsworn monster off of the Banish, all the better as well, depending on what you banish, because then that's just 1 additional name for you to use. Because when you summon out your Lumina Twilightsworn, being able to banish the Lightsworn monster from your hand, which if you have the Charge of the Light Brigade, you can go for the additional send of cards from the top of your deck. For even more cards in the graveyard, grabbing you the specific Lightsworn card of choice as well. And then from there, being able to go for the banish, as long as you have the other targeted Lightsworn monster that you banished off of your March of the Dark Brigade, to then be able to summon back onto the field. And then from here, when you use Lumina's effect for the discard, which you'll have the additional card in your hand for the discard as well, as long as you have another Lightsworn monster in your graveyard to summon back, the effect of Lumina Twilightsworn will activate as well, going for the additional mill for your cards to the graveyard on top of the Lumina effect. Since it just says once per turn, if your other Lightsworn monster effect activates, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. It doesn't have to be the end phase effect of the Lightsworn monster to be able to summon. But then from there, you just set up more and more cards to then work with your engine to banish off of for your Twilightsworns to then be able to summon out your bigger boss monster, Punishment Dragon. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Wanted to do an update to this deck. It's been a long while since I've actually updated Twilightsworns, so glad I was finally able to do so, and I hope you all enjoyed the video as well. And until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.